Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, I want to take a closer look at a new regional unit for the upcoming Last Chieftains DLC called the Champi. Even if you're not getting the DLC and playing the new civs, this unit is being given to the Inca as well, replacing both their militia line and Eagle Warrior, so it's a unit that's worth everyone getting at least some working knowledge of. To start with the in-game description, which tells us what the devs intend for the unit, they call it an all-purpose infantry for scouting and raiding, which is strong against archers, siege weapons, and buildings, while it's weak against cavalry. Overall, I'd say that's an accurate summary of the unit, though the extra emphasis on cavalry is interesting, and when we see some examples, you can decide if you like that description. As for the unit, it's clearly a mix of the two unit lines it replaces, though at different points it will lean toward one or the other. In Dark Age, they become their civilization scouts, almost as a worse version of Eagle Scouts if anything, as they have less HP, though their other stats are quite similar. Right away, they do start with a bit of anti-shock infantry and siege bonus, so they're not quite the Eagle Scout, but overall it is a good comparison. In Feudal Age, they then upgrade to the Champi Runner, with a bit more HP and attack. Compared to the Men-at-Arms, you can see they're a bit worse off in melee, but are faster and have an extra pierce armor, retaining that Eagle influence, while having a nearly identical cost. Castle Age, they then get a big jump in attack when upgraded, putting them on par with the Longsword. By this point, they also have +2 against buildings, along with their shock infantry and siege bonuses, so they start to feel closest to a Longsword plus, or at least not that much worse in melee. In Imperial Age, they then drift a bit closer to the Eagle again, with significantly less attack but now much more pierce armor than the Champion. Something very important to consider in practice is then their creation time, which is relatively slow and like Eagle Warriors speeds up in later ages, with maybe not quite as dramatic a drop in training time as the Eagle line, but certainly much more so than the Militia line, which is always a flat 21 seconds. I still fully expect we'll see some Champi openings similar to Men-at-Arms, as while they take 27 seconds longer to train 3 of them than 3 Militia, their faster movement then cuts a chunk off their travel time to your opponent's base. Plus, all the new civs and Incas have a very good early economy. So far, the main takeaway is they're just a very obvious blend of their two influences, having the pierce armor and speed aspect of Eagles, while the cost, bonuses, and lack of conversion resistance feel more like the Militia line. On top of all of this, they also build outposts in the same 15 seconds as a villager. Next, let's build some intuition for how they should perform in a few common situations. First off, against the Militia line, they tend to be a step behind. This is without any of their bonuses factored in, and a couple of those will bring them up to the level of a Longsword in Castle Age. But even then, a Longsword or Champion with a good infantry bonus beats a Champi with a good one. Just to touch on the different bonuses and techs contributing in melee for a moment, with a generic Champi, it's a pretty comfortable fight for champions, with no bonuses involved on either side. All 4 civilizations are a step up from that generic version in the late game though, with Tupi returning some extra resources here, and Mapuche gaining some durability at the cost of a lot of speed. Muisca likewise have some extra armor, and Inca with their discount being reflected in extra units are actually the closest to beating generic champions, though to be clear, the unit really isn't meant for fighting things like champions at all. That said, they can perform respectably against some weaker melee units, like obviously the spear line, doing almost as well as longswords in that situation, and likewise perform pretty well against eagles, partly because they have a bonus there. Eagles are a bit less important comparison now that only 2 civs are going to get those, but the same bonus damage applies to a few other units as well. What about cavalry, as their alleged big weakness? Well, there is something to that. With here, for example, balanced total resources and upgrades, but no bloodlines, scouts are about an even fight with generic Champi. As soon as you throw in bloodlines though, the scouts are going to overcome any of the Champi civilizations, which really shouldn't be surprising, given even Men-at-Arms struggle against bloodline scouts unless you have an upgrade advantage. That said, light cavalry are really not a counter, as remember Champi get a pretty good jump in stats in Castle Age, almost to the level of longswords. So when they say they're weak against cavalry, this isn't really what they mean. I think what they mean is heavy cavalry, like knights or similar unique units. Here is where they differ more profoundly from longswords, as best case for Champi is with a solid bonus, they can trade roughly evenly with knights, while longswords actually have a distinct edge if you can get balanced resources onto the field. Champi, especially with a good bonus, are far from useless in melee, but once creation time comes into play, you really want something else to mix in against knights, like spears or a ranged unit. That's their alleged big weakness though, and now let's touch on their strengths. Without a doubt, they lean more toward the Eagle Scout side of things than Men-at-Arms when it comes to tanking archer or skirmisher shots in the early to mid game. If anything, this is something a lot of their bonuses and techs really help them with late as well, where if we rank according to Arbalester shots taken, even the worst of the Champi have almost double the durability of champions with Gambazins, while on the other extreme, Inca take even more shots than fully upgraded Mayan Elite Eagle warriors. Remember, this is with Champi costing half as much gold as Eagles, which is a big deal in 1v1s without trade. Pierce armor is also part of their general raiding specialty, as that means more resistance to town center arrows and towers, but then sneakily, they have that anti-building bonus damage, letting them deal significantly more damage to things like palisade walls than Eagles, and be just that much more threatening. The next question then is, while they can do a bit of the Eagles raiding, can they also perform the Militia Line's anti-trash role in the late game? It keeps feeling like they get the best of both worlds, as again, I would say yes. Not only do they handle halberdiers just fine, but all 4 civs have the last infantry armor upgrade, so elite skirmishers do just 1 damage, putting any champion on par with champions with Gambazins, so they have skirmishers pretty well covered as well. Again, to the point of light cavalry not necessarily being a counter, even generic elite champi beat hussars if we don't give gold any extra weighting, so I think we can acknowledge the unit does fill the anti-trash role. Now so far, I've only touched on the margins about differences between the various champi, almost referring to them as small tweaks to their stats. But there is one way in which I think they feel very different, and that's in regards to speed. The variety here is pretty dramatic, with Muisca in red basically keeping up with elite eagle warriors, or almost cavalry archers, while Mapuche on the other extreme are roughly on par with champions. Those wildly different speeds have a big impact on what kind of roles they can fill. And especially when it comes to countering archers, cavalry archers, or siege, the Mapuche's plus 15 HP is not necessarily going to make up for the fact it has such a harder time reaching those units. To that point, let's now go a bit further into each civilization's flavor of the unit, and in particular how that works within their tech tree. To start with the Inca, they have a food discount on all military units, which is obviously good for cost efficiency. It brings them on par with knights in melee for instance, but the main thing that makes Inca feel unique is fabric shields in Imperial Age, giving them +1/+1 armor. They're clearly the best against archers once that tech is in, which is something we probably could have said about Inca Eagle warriors, though now doing that with half the gold cost. Next up are the Mapuche, and for a civ that's all about cavalry and counter units officially, they have surprisingly good champi as well, thanks to getting extra HP on all infantry. Notice that's completely free and passive from the start of the game, going up to plus 15 HP by Imperial, though they have the critical weakness of uniquely lacking squires. That makes them a slow and tanky version of the unit, which could end up making them the least useful in practice, though in their defense, they are still faster than the crossbows, slingers, and skirmishers that they'll likely be standing in front of. They'll just have a harder time sniping siege, etc., which is something clearly intended for their mounted Kona to be doing instead, while Mapuche Champi are functioning closer to Malian champions than Eagles. Next up for the Muisca, again, they're not technically an infantry civ, but their Champi are again helped, this time with progressively more melee armor, trading that off for the last attack upgrade. They're the lightest hitting of the bunch, but like Mapuche have more durability, in this case against anything doing melee damage. What arguably puts them into the top tier functionally though is a unique tech for 15% more speed, so they end up with basically the speed, attack, HP, and pierce armor of an elite eagle warrior, albeit without the eagle's usual gold cost. If the Mapuche had the most champion-y feeling champi, Muisca have the eagle-y feeling version, while their temple guard does the heavy infantry role. That leaves us with the Tupi, who have some nice intangibles, with barracks upgrades costing half as much food, plus the unit returns 15% of their costs when they die. Like Muisca, they lack the final attack upgrade, but roughly make up for it with a unique tech, giving them 25% faster attack. Tupi are obviously pushed to be very archer-focused, with the Blackwood Archer and poison damage on Arbalesters, so having this just be middle of the road in stats is fine, as it should still have a useful role cleaning up skirmishers or mangonels, while the civilization's Ibra Pema Warrior is the melee-focused barracks option. Overall, despite their differences, all 4 civilizations should have a decent champi opening, thanks to various early game bonuses, not the least of which is the settlement itself and its implicit wood savings. Later on, they start to specialize a bit more, though all 4 still work as an anti-trash unit in a pinch or tanking shots from archers and skirmishers, but shouldn't really fight a melee unit any tougher than a hussar. Of course, all of this is on top of being an excellent builder of outposts, which I expect we'll see a lot more of now. Speaking of which, if you're inspired to do your own lookout extension on top of your home for the added line of sight, you really want an expert to help with that, which just happens to be the specialty of my new business, Spirit of the Loft. Book a consultation today using a great website created with this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a great-looking website, engage with your audience, and then sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place. Using either their pre-made templates or Squarespace's AI-enhanced website builder, you can create a fully customized website to suit your needs. It's perfect for building an online presence for a physical business or starting an online store using their built-in tools for inventory and shipping, with plenty of analytics to give you insight about your website's traffic and sales. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/spiritofthelaw to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So that was a crash course rundown of the new Champi. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.